10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello everybody, I'm Graham LEDGER coming to you from a double secret location in a free state. No longer am I in prison in the once great state, the golden state, once great and golden, no longer great state of California. And that's what I want to talk to you about. This is a cautionary tale. This tale, unfortunately, is a true story. And like any good story, any good tale, any good fable, only this one based in reality, of course, it has a tragic ending. The ending is unfolding before our eyes right now. There will never be an absolute ending, but there will be a continuum of endings propagated by the Marxist regimes that govern the state of California. And if you live in a red state, you need to listen to this cautionary tale, because I live in a red state, and I see many of the symptoms that I saw decades ago in California in the red state in which I live. There are many, many symptoms, and the key areas to watch, other than your elected officials, and who your neighbors are electing, which is very important. I'll get into that in just a little bit. But you need to pay attention to what's going on in your school, because that's the genesis of the Marxist takeover of California. It was the schools, and I'm a product of California schools, both public and private. That's where it began. And so fast forward to today, the public schools and many of the private schools, many of the private schools, especially the Catholic schools, that want to be hip or want to be cool or want to service the minorities instead of the whites, they've fallen for it too. So in many cases in California, there is no escape for your children from the Marxist propaganda that exists, but this applies to many of the other blue states in the United States, like Illinois and New York and New Jersey and Washington and Oregon, New Mexico, Colorado. This is a cautionary tale for all 50 states in this country, including California. It is a tale that is emblematic of the enemy within our country. And I want to let you know why I say to my friends who ask me repeatedly, why do you hammer California so much? Why do you hammer San Diego so much? Well, I used to live in San Diego, and I remember what San Diego was like in the 1980s. Yeah, I'm that old. May not look it, but I'm that old. I remember what San Diego was like in the 80s. I remember what San Diego was like in the 90s. And I heard about what San Diego was like in the 70s. I know what San Francisco was like in the 70s because that's where I grew up. San Francisco's always been cuckoo. But California has not always been polluted by the Marxist mindset that exists in San Francisco. Now it is. So this is a warning, and I want to start it off with a little bit of history, and that is from World War II and General George Patton. I don't know how many battles Patton fought in World War II. Somebody can Google that and let me know. Probably a dozen, let's say, maybe more. And he won. People probably believe that he was 12-0, but he wasn't. He was 11-1. Did you know that? In fact, one of the first battles he fought after D-Day, coming in Utah Beach, he lost. It was called Fort Durant. And Fort Durant was obviously a French fort that was taken over by the Germans, but it was heavily reinforced and fortified. It had 150 millimeter guns that were being used to take out the Allied troops, aka the Americans, after they landed at Normandy Beach. And so Patton wanted to take that fort. He was low on gasoline, he was low on supplies, but he figured he didn't want to stay idle, so he went after the fort, had a plan, it failed. Regrouped, put another lieutenant general in charge with another plan, it failed miserably, and guys were getting slaughtered. This fort was heavily reinforced with concrete, it had pillboxes all over the place. It didn't have a weak link. It didn't have a back door, if you will, that was weak. The Americans thought they found one in like the third or the fourth attempt on the fort, but it didn't happen. Guys were getting slaughtered. And Patton knew in his heart that this was a losing battle, but he tried another couple, 3 times. It was all in all about a half a dozen attempts on this fort until Patton finally said, that's it, we're cutting our losses, we're moving on. And it was the right move, because what if you just ignore a fort like that? You allow the people to survive, I guess, or maybe you encircle it and imprison them, but if you don't engage it, what good is the fort, right? It's like the island hopping theory that we used in the Pacific theater. You go every other island, and the island in between gets starved to death, if you will. So Patton, ladies and gentlemen, walked away from a fight. Patton lost a battle. We know, ultimately, General Patton, the greatest general in the history of this country, ultimately was a key component in the Allied victory in World War II. We know this. And I'm not denigrating Patton by telling you the story. I'm just telling you about life. That some battles are not winnable. So when my friends in California say, why do you hammer California? Why are you so hard on San Diego? Oh, you must be jealous. No. I'm 2 things, actually, truth be told. One, I'm very upset and very sad that the Marxists have destroyed California and destroyed San Diego. And don't believe Newsom when he's running around right now. He's running to the center. Okay? He's running to the center, if that's possible for Gavin Newsom. From the left, he's running, trying to run toward the center when he's saying things like, well, we need to clean up the so-called homeless. They're not homeless, they're bums. We need to clean up these encampments. And he's putting pressure on local municipalities to clean up the so-called homeless encampments now. After how many years? All of a sudden? Are you kidding me? They've created a culture, a subculture, within the culture of California. It's not going to go away. It exists. This subculture leeches off productive Californians. Leeching off productive Californians. By not paying taxes, by living and crapping and doing whatever else, shooting up on the streets, right in front of the beach in Malibu, wherever. If Malibu suddenly says you can't be on the beach anymore, and they move them out, you know what's going to happen? First of all, the ACLU is going to go in there, and they're going to say, you can't do that, they have a right to be here. And there's going to be a legal battle. And then, of course, in California, they would never use force. There's a reason why red states don't have a bum, aka homeless problem, is because the red states enforce local laws. California is refusing to enforce local laws. It's that simple. Every municipality has an anti-loitering law. Well, when you're so-called homeless, aka a bum, and you're on the sidewalk, you're loitering. So, if you're breaking the law, you give them a warning, they don't leave, you arrest them, boom, they're gone. That's the difference. So, Fort Durant was not worth fighting. California is not worth fighting for. I'm sorry for all my friends that say, I'm staying behind so I can fight. Oh yeah, what's your game plan? What is your game plan to fight back against the Marxists who have taken over California? And by the way, it's not just the elected officials. It's not just Gavin Newsom. It's the people voting for the Marxists that are being put in government. When I first came to San Diego, it was true blue, red county and city run by Republicans. Mayor Pete Wilson, Mayor Roger Hedgecock, Republicans. Today, it is all Democrat, all Marxists. Maybe the greatest example of what is going on in California is something that most of you don't even know about. It's called ADUs, accessory dwelling units. Okay? Now follow me on this. Various municipalities like San Diego just flipped a light switch and said, okay, we have a quote housing problem, which they don't. They have a leadership problem. They have a Marxist problem. They don't have a housing problem. They have a problem with the direction of the city and the county of San Diego. But in order to accommodate more people in San Diego, or ostensibly get the bums off the street, ADUs, accessory dwelling units. What is an accessory dwelling unit? Please go on my Substack page, and there you will see posted pictures of what we're talking about here. One example is outlandish, as much as it is emblematic of the problem that these municipalities, San Diego, a top 10 city in the country, maybe top 5, 3.5 million people in the county, is doing to its people. There's a community in San Diego called Claremont. If any of you saw Fast Times at Ridgemont High, there is Claremont High School. That's what the movie was modeled after, and yes, it actually happened. Spicoli and all that stuff, actually, that's the way it was. I've had friends, I asked them, they went to Claremont High in the 70s, and they said, yep, that's what it was like. We used to drive trucks with caterers to school and blah, 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 blah. Okay, but that's Claremont. It's a community smack dab in the middle of San Diego. Not on the beach, but it's probably 10 minutes from the beach. It's on a bit of a hill. It has canyons running through it. It's an average blue-collar, maybe slightly white-collar, between blue and white-collar neighborhood. It's affordable. At least it used to be affordable. Now, the median price home in San Diego of $1 million, those homes are probably $1.5 million, $2 million now. Some tract home that was built in the 60s and 70s that's beginning to be eaten alive by termites is now probably $1.5 million, $2 million. Absolutely insane. So this neighborhood in Claremont, probably 50, 60,000 homes, I'm guessing, because it was a large chunk of San Diego. One person said, okay, in one homeowner with a typical kind of home, probably 18, 19, say 2,000 square feet at the most, single-story home, said, okay, I'm going to do the ADUs. So all of a sudden, this guy says, I'm going to build all these structures in my backyard because I have a wedge shape. He's on a, looks like on a cul-de-sac, so it's probably a wedge-shaped piece of property. So he's building these ADUs on there. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 10, not 15, 17 ADUs. 17 accessory dwelling units of about 800 or 700 square feet each. You know, basically studios, 1 bedroom, whatever you want to call them. 2 stories. So there's probably 1 up, 1 down. 17 units. 2 stories. So that probably means, let's see, I went to San Diego State, so it takes me a little while to do the math, but that's about 8 or 9 structures, depending on how he's positioning them, in the backyard of a neighborhood, of a single-family home, a neighborhood that was designed for a normal living. Where are you going to put all the cars? Where are you going to put all the people? How about the pressure it's going to put on the sewage and the water and the whole 9 yards? It's insanity. Look at the pictures if you don't believe me. It is absolute insanity. And this can happen virtually anywhere at any time in San Diego now because they have effectively obliterated the zoning in residential neighborhoods to allow for these ADUs. You don't believe me? Look at the pictures. People say, why are you posting so many negative stories on Facebook? I know a lot of you folks don't do Facebook. About California. And I'm just going to run through the recent posts, a few, okay? Because it's not me. I find these stories and I'm aghast. San Diego. They're trying to balance a budget. They have about a $250 million budget shortfall. Oh, how shocking. From a Democrat leadership, how shocking. So they're looking for places to cut. You know where they're going to cut? Fire rings. What's a fire ring if you don't know anything about the beach? It's about a 5-foot diameter piece of concrete that's open on either end. You can roll it like a wheel, but you lay it flat and voila, on the sand, and voila, it's a fire pit. So it just keeps the coals within the ring, right? So in order to, quote, balance the budget and close the $258 million budget shortfall, they're going to get rid of fire pits. Do you know how much you save by getting rid of fire pits in San Diego? $135,000 a year. What does that tell you? What does that tell you about what they're really, they being the leadership, what are they really thinking? They're thinking control, just like they did during COVID, control the minions. We're not going to allow them to have fun unless we say they can have fun. And fire pits, by the way, other than being probably the nemesis of the green idiots out there because you're just putting, you're burning carbon in the air and destroying the planet. But fire pits symbolize freedom, don't they? They really do. The freedom to go to the beach on your own free will, light a fire, and roast some marshmallows, that is something they want to control. They, being the Marxist leadership in San Diego, but this applies to all of California, okay? Here's another post. Major corporations leave California one by one by one. I don't know if you're aware of this, but 2 refineries are closing in California. Think about that. Their gas right now is $5.50, $6 a gallon. Valero is closing a key refinery in the Bay Area. Another one's being closed in the Bay Area. What's that going to do to the refining capability in California? It's going to destroy it. It's going to create a bottleneck. So what's going to do to prices? Well, we all know what's going to do to prices. It's going to drive up prices further. And do the Marxists care? No, they don't care. They want that. Here's another one. San Diego-based fast food chain Jack in the Box has closed 150 locations. I believe that's more than half. Now, they're going to say a whole bunch of reasons, rent, or maybe not rent because they may wholly own their different franchise locations, I don't know. But it's the cost of doing business in California, including the jacking up of the minimum wage, which I believe in California is up over $20 an hour. That's not a minimum wage. It's an artificial number. And remember what your buddy Graham Ledger always says. What should the minimum wage be in California and the rest of the United States? It should be 0. I'm sorry, but in a free market, the minimum wage should be 0. There should be no minimum wage. Ask Milton Friedman if you don't believe me. The minimum wage is what the market pays. And if Jack in the Box is not paying as much as McDonald's, guess what? The Jack in the Box workers are going to go to McDonald's. And if McDonald's is not paying enough as Burger King, then guess what? The McDonald's workers are going to go to Burger King. Oh, but wait a minute, there's more benefits at McDonald's. Oh, well, maybe we'll stay at McDonald's. But what about Jack in the Box here? No, you don't have to work at night. Well, okay, maybe we'll go to Jack in the Box. We don't have to work at night. Blah, 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 blah. It's called competition. Couple more. I don't have to read all these to you. San Diego, Judge OK San Diego's newest safe spot parking lot for homeless residents. I mean, think about that. A parking lot for homeless residents. What? If they have a car, where do they register it? And they're quote homeless. Can you explain that one to me? Please. You have a vehicle in California. I know you have to register somewhere. So if you're homeless, where do you register your vehicle? A parking lot for the homeless. So, oh, by the way, this is an area called Ocean Beach. It's right on the bleeping water. Right where it's a parking lot, by the way, for people who want to go to the beach or go to the pier. Not anymore. Not anymore. Soon you'll have drug addicts shooting up there in their tents. A parking lot filled with bums and drug addicts. Ocean Beach was bad enough before this, allowing the so-called homeless, aka bums, into the parking lot there. Ocean Beach had an area called the War Zone. And the War Zone was basically this area that, I don't know, it was hippies. OB is kind of like a hippie deal, tie-dye t-shirts kind of stuff. I mean, it's hard to believe it still exists, especially so close to the water, but it does. Although I'm sure now even the hippies are going to say, maybe we shouldn't live in OB because of this so-called homeless encampment that's going to bring drugs and crime. It always does. Did they ask the residents if they want the so-called homeless camp right there at the beach? No, of course not. And my friends, or whoever, say, wow, it's okay, because California is the 5th largest economy in the world. Now, I want you to think about that. The next time a moron says that to you, and I use that word moron lovingly, okay? I do. As a Christian. I say moron. Why? Let's say California breaks off and says we're going to be an independent, sovereign nation called California. That means that the United States federal government's footprint would no longer be there, right? There'd no longer be mail delivery, unless there was some sort of agreement with the United States, the 49 states. There'd no longer be military protection. There'd no longer be the FBI. There would no longer be all these assets, military bases, post offices, government housing, on and on and on and on. VA. The VA is a federal organization. Not to mention FEMA. All these things that the federal government provides. You know, California likes to say, well, we pay more tax dollars than we receive. Okay, fine. Go for it. Go for it. If you really believe that you can spend your money more wisely, California, on your own without giving a dime to the federal government because you're going to break off and be your own sovereign nation, go for it. You're going to have to establish your own military of some kind. You're going to have to establish some postal system of your own kind. You're going to have to mint your own money unless you have an agreement with the United States to still use greenbacks. Go for it. Go for it. Let's see how well you do as the, quote, 5th largest economy in the world. Go for it. Quit telling me you're the 5th largest economy when you know it is absolute BS. So the next time you hear that, tell that moron, oh yeah, let's think about that for a minute, shall we? And this effort to impeach Gavin Newsom, that would, if you play it out and it qualifies, let's just say it qualifies, and then there's a process for the Secretary of State to call a new election. The whole thing would transpire if there was ever an actual impeachment or recall vote, would transpire with about 4 months of Gavin Newsom's term remaining. Now, is that an intelligent thing to do? I mean, really? Is that intelligent? Gavin Newsom survived one recall, which I was part of, and then he survived an election. And yes, they cheated in California, and yes, it was rigged, but he still won, okay? Don't you understand that? Oh, but they cheated, yeah. And what's your point? He is the governor, okay? If your impeachment works, I'm sorry, I keep using impeachment. If your recall works, There'll be 4 months left. Does that make any sense to you whatsoever, California or non-Californians? The other thing that I often hear when I post things on Facebook about gas prices or whatever, what have you, about California, people will say, oh, well, that Gavin Newsom has to go. You know, they're Californians. Well, we've got to get rid of Gavin Newsom. Okay, great. Let's wave a magic wand and Gavin Newsom's gone, not governor anymore. Do you think all your ills are going to go away? Do you think gas prices are going to go down? Do you think San Diego is going to be returned as a free county and a free city? Do you think Los Angeles is not going to be a disaster zone anymore? Do you think that San Francisco is suddenly going to go conservative? It's the same thing when my friend said, well, the election of Donald Trump, we hope that's going to change California. It's not going to change California. And removing Gavin Newsom, I have news for you. Are you sitting down, California? There are dozens, hundreds, thousands of little Gavin Newsoms running around California that will replace him and be just as bad, if not worse. And they might not have slick hair. Do you understand that? The problem isn't Gavin Newsom in California. The problem is people electing Gavin Newsom in California. The problem is your neighbors. The problem is you're outnumbered. And when Patton was outnumbered at Fort Durand in France in World War II, he chose to walk away and fight another battle. And it's a damn good thing that he did. Because if he had gotten bogged down and gotten slaughtered, even taken the fort, but the casualties were so severe, he might not have been able to do what he did later on in World War II, and that's win the damn war. Do you understand, California? Do you understand, my good friends in California who say you're going to stay and fight? Some battles are not winnable. And the battle for California is not winnable. Because what has happened is Marxism has become generational in California. It started in the 70s, maybe even in the 60s, to today, where you have full-blown Marxist propagandist schools that don't teach the United States Constitution, but instead teach how the virtues of things that are Marxist and communist disguised as being, quote, American. It's that simple. California is a lost cause. It is over in California. You cannot win that fight. And if General George Patton were alive today, and he knew the political dynamic that was going on in this country and going on in California, he would tell people in California, you cannot win that battle. You cannot win this fight. It's better to walk away, pull your assets, pull your money, pull your footprint out of California, and move on and fight another battle. Bolster a red state. Defend a red state from becoming like California. But you are wasting your time, you are wasting your money, you are wasting your life by kidding yourself that California is somehow fixable, because it's not. I'm Graham Ledger, thank you for watching, and remember, when I'm wrong, I'm right, and evil can only prevail when good is silent.